that's how you run through $9 in 5 seconds. Let's head up to the shop and talk about this rifle, which is our next restoration project. Yup, $3 a piece. $3 for every round down the barrel. This is a Winchester Model 1907. It is our new project in the shop. It's going to be here for a while. We have some things to do to this. This will be a full restoration. 351 SL. 351 is the caliber. SL is for slide action. And it is old. This is a continuation, as I understand it, of the Winchester Model 1903, the 1905, and the 1907 is the replacement for those two rifles. This is an early semi-automatic, and I had never heard of this before this one came into the retail store. She is unique. She is kind of an interesting old rifle. If you look at it, you can see the DNA for the Winchester because it's got the slab side or the flat side with the little rise here on the front of the receiver. Pretty typical of Winchesters during that period of time. As I said, we're going to do a full restoration to this puppy. We're going to make her new again. It's actually not in terrible shape. There are issues, and in our next episode we will do a full survey of this rifle, and we'll talk about some of the things that we know are wrong with it. We'll show you some photos, some close-ups. These things, not terribly valuable in the grand scheme of things. Again, like I said, I had never heard of it until it came into the shop, which caused me to do some research. Turns out the ammo is not available unless you get it on the specialty market. This is made by Ventura Heritage. Again, never even heard of these guys until I started looking for this. All the book says it's loaded with 180 grain lead. And that's the only way it came. This is 170 grain soft point. It's quite a little cartridge, a little bit like the old M1 carbine, that sort of dimensions, sized feel. They said that it was designed early on by Winchester to kind of replace the old Winchester 3030 Model 94 for deer hunting. And I don't know how many of these got into the hands of deer hunters, but I do know that between 1907 and 1957, they made 58,000 copies of this rifle. This is a 1921. The serial number points it at 1921. So she is an old girl. She's just 104 years old. So she's an old timer. She's been around. This is a heavy rifle. This thing, I checked the weight. It comes in at 7 pounds, 12 ounces, almost 8 pounds. And you know it when you pick it up. It has that heft. I'm trying to imagine some hunter literally schlepping this thing around in the woods at nearly 8 pounds. It's got all the classic styling, typical Winchester. Winchester always did these kind of narrow, sharp combs, and this one has all of that. Very nice thin butt. It's not thick and heavy like modern rifles are today. Everything that comes out of factories now look like they were made more as clubs than fine instruments that they are. It is magazine fed. Came initially with a five round. I think this is a 5 round. Let's find out. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Yeah, that is a 5-round. So this is how they came out of the factory. I had to buy this aftermarket because the gun did not have one. So I had to source this, and so that I could shoot it. It's accurate. It shoots where I point it, which is pretty cool for an old-timer. Came in 2 versions. That was the standard, or the plain they called it, and then the deluxe. The plain is what this one is, and then the deluxe had checkering and a little bit finer piece of wood. This one does not have a particularly beautiful piece of wood, but when we strip it down, one thing about these older walnut stocks is even the stuff that's 100 years old, even though they called it plain, it has incredible figure once you get down inside of it. Looking forward to seeing what that figure looks like. Stocks are cracked. They are in need of tender, loving care. The buttstock has a crack. Forearm has a crack. Interesting thing about the forearm, in, what was the year? What was the year? 1930, so 9 years after this one came out, Winchester redesigned this and gave it a heavier forestock, or forearm, because this model year, or this era, these forearms tended to crack, and I have one that's cracked, so whatever was typical of these early 1907s is true to this one. It does have a crack. We'll fix that. We'll make it look like it wasn't even there. That's going to be kind of fun. Has a lot of interesting history. And like I said, I had to look all that up because I'd never heard of this rifle before that. If you have one of these, if you've used one of these, if you know about one of these, leave a comment. Tell me your experience with them. Because you seeing me shoot this is the only experience I've had with it. Almost 8 pounds. Recoil's pretty light with an 8-pound rifle. I just want you guys to understand that. So she does absorb all of the energy. Blowback, it's not a locking bolt. And according to the research I was doing, they call this a weighted blowback. And by that, I'm assuming that it means that it's weighted specifically for the amount of energy that the round puts out. So the timing is all correct. So history. Yes, I'll tell you about history. So Winchester came out with this. Like I said, the info that I find suggests that they were trying to find a replacement for deer hunting for the 30-30. They say that the energy, the impact, the takedown power of this is about the same as a 30-30. World War I, this rifle got some love. France was the first country to request from Winchester that they send some of these over during the First World War. The internet being what it is, I'm not sure I trust the numbers, but the internet says about 2,800 went to France. I've seen as high as 4,000. I don't know. But what was interesting about it is these were given to the early French Air Force. So the observers in the back seat of the old airplanes, they would carry these things around, and I guess they would try to shoot at other airplanes as they were flying around. If you are pilots, you would understand how patently difficult that would be to shoot a rifle in the air at other airplanes, or I suppose perhaps even in ground strafes. But And not only that, but it turns out that in that research that even the early US aero squadrons bought a few of these for the kind of the same purpose. So it does have a rich First World War history, which I think is really kind of cool, that something like this had a singular purpose as the war kind of raged on. But its most famous and infamous period of time was prohibition. Turns out that all the bad guys, the gangs, the Dillinger gang was famous for using these rifles because of the firepower, how quickly they could be shot. The FBI adopted it to fight the Dillinger gang. So the FBI, looking to balance power against power, they end up buying some of these from Winchester as well. 1920 to 1930, the Border Patrol was using these rifles as well. I can't find any information or stories about the Border Patrol or even the FBI using these. It just shows up as being something that was done. But I find it in a lot of locations, even on some trustworthy websites. So I tend to believe it that the U.S. government sought to use these kind of early semi-automatic rifles. Kind of a cool little rifle. So we looked up the values of this thing. I'm rating this at probably 75 or 80% condition. Maybe that's a little bit high. We might want to go a little bit lower to 70, 75%. The finish is starting to flake off in a lot of different areas. The original bluing, it's just plain missing. It's not there. So it's been replaced by surface rust. Barrel is missing a lot of color, a lot of bluing. But again, it's all there. The sights are there, both rear and front sighted. So typical Winchester folding buckhorn sights and typical front sight, drift sight, left and right, back and forth. So it is a fun little rifle. So we'll do a complete survey and I'll kind of talk our way through some of what's right or wrong with this thing. We're in a same situation as we've been with some of the other old rifles. The butt pad, the plastic pad, is in a little bit of need of attention and repair, so we'll probably either do that. If I can fix it, I will. If I need to buy another one, I will as well. So not a lot to talk about today, because by the time you see this video, I'll already have started to dig into it and start doing that survey and pointing out some of the things that we need to look at. And also, at that same time, we'll start dismantling it or disassembling it and kind of figuring out where the parts go. I had a hard time finding a schematic for this rifle. Again, it's not terribly rare, but it's not terribly popular either. So nobody or not a lot of people cover this, and we're gonna give it a shot. We're gonna see if we can't get this thing apart, get it cleaned up, get it polished, blued, get the stocks refinished. This will be a multi-episode series. I know a lot of you prefer or would ask that I do a more comprehensive series talking about or showing the restoration from beginning to end. I'm going to be several weeks, maybe months on this. So if I want to make content for you guys, I'm going to be working on this for months, and I would prefer to kind of talk through each of the things that I do. This is going to be fun, guys. I'm really looking forward to this one. Really looking forward to it. Anyway, If you enjoyed this video, you know the deal. Give it a thumbs up. Subscribe to the channel if you haven't already, guys. I'm telling you, most of you are not subscribed, and if you were, it would all help the algorithm decide that this is a channel worth watching. The channel is growing nicely, and I appreciate that from all of you, from the support I get from all of you. I love the comments when they come in. I look forward to your comments on this rifle. I'll see you in the next video. Love you guys. Bye.